Peers can be the sternest of critics, so being watched by a colleague, even if it's for the best of reasons, can be a little nerve-wracking.
Je vous donne 1 minute pour discuter entre vous les réponses aux questions. Et puis, je vais écouter les réponses, okay?
But staff at Thomas More High School near Newcastle enjoy the peer observation process.
You're not just going through the same old routine and the same old motions, you're actually learning something new every day and keeps you on your toes, keeps you fresh and keeps you interested.
This welcoming approach to what's sometimes an uncomfortable part of continuing professional development has been achieved with 2 smart techniques. One comes straight out of the playground and is known as tigging.
The person being observed has then been tigged, so it's then their opportunity to go and approach another member of staff, say, as I say, usually within the department, to go and see them.
The other key feature is identifying which teacher is particularly good at something and spreading that specialised expertise throughout the staff.
What it allows a colleague to do is, having identified an area of professional development, to then identify a colleague who is particularly skilled in that area and go and observe them teaching. And we find that actually seeing the skills or whatever in practice is much more effective than sitting talking about it. This is very much observing with your own agenda for your own professional practice, and it completely changes the emphasis and the roles within the lesson observation.
It's not about an experienced teacher observing an inexperienced teacher and giving them advice on an issue that's arisen in the class. It could be somebody with 4 years' experience who's particularly good at plenaries, for example, and a teacher with 20 years' experience may be struggling with plenary, so they might go in and observe that teacher with sort of specific focus on plenaries.
This programme shows how tigging and specialised targeted observation can be made to work within any school without resorting to expensive or time-consuming external courses. Indeed, it's become so successful at Thomas More that the system now sustains itself with barely any intervention from senior management. The teachers own and run it.
And then when I've seen that today, I've thought, of course, yeah, I haven't thought of that in the past. Why didn't I think of that in the past? Because it's so simple to do.
We'll also show you how the bank of programmes online at the Teachers TV website can be used to help you take the initiative in your continuing professional development. More details later. Modern foreign languages teacher Chris is going to observe his head of department, Christine. Their agreed goal is to investigate how to increase pupils' use of the target language.
Main thing I was looking for was general techniques and strategies to help and facilitate students to use the target language as much as possible. I'm looking forward to seeing how I could maybe employ some of the strategies that you're using, and there might be sort of some questions at the end on how we could actually take that a step further.
And there has to be a clear focus. There's no point in going in to observe somebody's lesson just for the sake of it. It needs to be something that the observer has identified as being an area of professional need or an area that they particularly like to develop in their practice.
Please feel free to join in. Right. And maybe even work with the kids, because I think the best way of seeing whether it's working or not is to actually try it yourself with them. When we do the feedback at the end, I really do want your honest opinion. So,
right, yeah, you'll get it.
You know.
As agreed, Chris gets actively involved in the lesson to get the most out of it.
Rather than just talking about strategies that we use on a day-to-day basis, I actually got a chance to go in and observe it and see it in the flesh. Obviously, we share that class, so it was nice to see how they react to certain strategies that are implemented by another teacher.
Je vous donne
The observation benefits both the observer and the teacher being observed.
The thing that I got out of it the most was that I didn't realise how much that I would learn from it. You know, ostensibly it's about Chris coming in and having a look at my lessons and taking away ideas, but that's just not how it works. I had to think very, very hard about the lesson to make sure it was worthwhile him coming in. That process made me think afresh about my approach.
An interesting side effect of it is that colleagues who hadn't realised that they were particularly talented or gifted in a particular aspect of teaching and learning had that identified for them by the observer. Because you do something, you tend to assume that everybody else does as well, whereas that isn't always the case. And having someone else coming in from the same department saying, hey, that's really good, I've never seen that before, makes you realise that, you know, what you're doing in a classroom can be something special and you know, obviously increases self-esteem as well. So it's really beneficial in all sorts of ways.
Following the lesson, Chris and Christine get together to debrief.
Good idea. I thought the bomb idea was an excellent idea, and it's good for word association.
Pour commencer, on va jouer le jeu de la bombe. Oh, OK. Alors, maintenant, parlez-nous de vous.
We could maybe use that further down the school as well.
How do teachers find the time to fit in lesson observations?
The school's very good in that they'll provide you with cover for the classes that you would normally be taken to go and do that.
Although the lesson observation might take in total perhaps an hour and a half, 2 hours, when you compare that with a colleague having to go on a training course, perhaps travelling some distance to a workshop, and then the cover that would be required for the full day, we find that the time allocation really does pay off in terms of professional development and improving the quality of teaching and learning across the school.
Et formez 2 lignes ici au milieu de la classe. OK? Monsieur, oui. Vous voulez participer?
Oui.
Excellent, merci beaucoup.
Another thing that I liked to see was the way in which Christine brought the less able students on by the 2-line activity. So they're talking to somebody who's different every 5 minutes.
Et maintenant, on va changer de personne. Allez, allez, allez. Merci, Nathalie. Bonjour. 1, 2, 3, allez.
And by doing that, that's helping to build their confidence up.
Et traditionnellement, pays d'accueil et quel accueil des immigrés.
That totally sort of aided and facilitated those less able students.
They felt as if they joined in.
Yeah, they felt as if they joined in, and they also had to, well, they had to speak.
1, 2, 3, allez. Oh.
I was really impressed with the tickets, the way they handed each other tickets.
Alors, qui veut donner des tickets? Pour qui et pourquoi?
Pour Liam. Ah, merci.
Pour Liam, pourquoi?
Oh, la réponse était très...
Oh, très bien, très rapide. Oui, il a réagi très rapidement, n'est-ce pas? Can I ask you though, did you not think, what I'm a little bit worried about with the tickets is that they see that as childish?
I thought it seemed to go more as kind of a bit of fun. It's nice to see another way of administering these tickets rather than the teacher constantly handing out tickets. It was good to see the students handing the tickets out.
Pour David? Oui. Spontanéité. Oui.
I liked the way they were commenting on each other's pronunciation, spontaneity, as well as like the answers that they were given. By giving it to the students to do and praise each other, that takes that responsibility away from the teacher, and you can actually go around and listen to more students as they're practicing. The more I observe colleagues, the easier it's going to become for me when I'm mentoring ITT students or other, like perhaps NQT students in the future. It helps me to focus and on the teaching, and also to learn how to observe a lesson properly.
Staff have devised a method to spread good practice across the school rapidly. They call it tigging, after the playground game.
What we've been doing today is the process of tigging, which is a bit like the game of tag. You chase somebody, you tig them, they can tig you back. So Chris was looking at my lesson, watching my lesson, to get ideas for his lessons, and I'll do the same later on. So it's very much a two-way process and very much on an equal status.
I like the way that you were giving them time to practice in the pairs or in the groups.
Yeah, I observed that in one of Teresa's lessons. I thought it was really, really good, so I deliberately tried to do that more there.
Yeah.
Tigging has also helped staff to overcome any initial fears about the project.
When I was first asked to take part in a TIG observation, it was a little bit daunting, and at first I wasn't sure what to expect. It definitely makes it easier knowing that once you've been observed, you then go on and you observe somebody else, and after a while it just becomes, I wouldn't say second nature, that somebody's in your lesson observing, but after a while you don't really notice them, the fact that they're there.
Because of the notion of equality and sharing, people don't feel threatened at all. There's very much a sense of trust between the staff at the school, which has been built up because of the scheme.
Although we obviously wouldn't force anyone to take part in this, we certainly do encourage everybody to take part. And I can't think of anybody who's taken part who has said, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Everybody has got something out of it.
And I would say now 100% you do it because you want to do it, and it's something that isn't required by the senior management of the school. It's just something that departments do as a matter of course now because they can see the benefits.
The TIG system is self-perpetuating. I have no input into it whatsoever. I provide the guidance where necessary or sort out cover and so on where necessary. But colleagues take responsibility for their own professional development.
If I can come into your lesson sometime after the holidays as well, that would be great. So we can exchange ideas.
Currently, we have the TIG system mainly within departments. What I'd really like to do is to develop this between departments. So there's all sorts of teaching and learning strategies that are used in different subject areas that would be really useful for experts in one area to observe experts in another, using them within the classroom.
You've been absolutely superb, just like you told us a couple of weeks ago that you would be if we gave you more opportunity to speak in French. I can safely say that since I've been at this school, I've learned such a lot from colleagues, more than I ever learned in training, more than I've ever learned just on my own, struggling in the classroom. And that's what makes it a pleasure to come to school every day.
Now there's another way to take the initiative with your CPD. The Teachers TV website has a comprehensive programme archive, and by using the search facility you can find programmes which may help with your own continuing professional development in specific areas. For example, see how another peer observation system works in a primary school. There are also lots of other approaches to CPD. Click on the video button on the home page and use the categories on the left to find the programmes you're looking for.